Okay, so hello, welcome Martin Williams.
Hi.
Hi. So if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Martin Williams. I was brought up in Mumbles, Southend, part of Mumbles in Swansea, and I now live at Pennard.
Okay, so how long did you live in Mumbles?
All my life. I've only just come to Pennard now over the last 3 years, and I grew up in Southend, which is known in old dialect as Outer Longer.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that actually. So Mumbles dialect's very specific to Mumbles, is that right?
Yes, it is, yeah, to the village.
Yeah. So when you say the village, how would you define the village? Boundaries.
Yeah, I would say past West Cross. Yeah, I think Norton would be the village, but that would be little pockets of the village. So you pass Norton and then you enter West Cross, and in old dialect then that would be hell and gone.
Okay.
So that means really that it would be Swansea, which would be I think probably before transportation. The pockets of villages all throughout the country really would have been smaller, and so it would have been hell and gone, I suppose, in the early 1900s.
Yeah, so when you say villages, so Mumbles itself was very much a village, not Mumbles town.
Yeah, no, village.
And then those parts of Mumbles, so Newton,
yeah,
they were discernibly different, or
they would be villages as well. So they would be, old Mumbles people would say he's a Langland boy. So I'm from Southend, which is Outer Longer, and then you have Inner Longer, which goes up to Oystermouth.
Yeah.
And then round backside would be round to Langland and to Caswell. So then by road then it would go up into the other villages, which would be Newton Village, and further out then towards the Gower, again past Caswell.
Yeah.
That would be that way hell and gone really in old dialect, because that would be heading out towards Merton and the Gower.
Okay. So did you say Epalong was out towards Newton?
Yeah, so if I was in Southend, which would be Outer Longer, and then I would go Inner Longer, would take me up to Oystermouth, and then up Newton Road.
Right. And
I would say that it would probably go round Langland Corner then.
Okay.
So you'd go up, and then you could either go straight up to Newton, up Newton Hill past the cemetery. So you would it's either, I don't know the define between Newton and Mumbles there. I don't know if it's more or less where Underhill Park is, halfway. But then if you were going the other side then, would be taking you up Langland Corner, so that would be round backside, and then you'd take the road right up Langland Corner, right down past St. Peter's Church, so you're on the boundary of Newton there, and then you'd go down to Caswell Bay, all on that road. So you're more or less riding on the boundary of Newton Village. Hence, that would have been round backside.
Okay, that makes sense. So thinking of Langland, I've heard that was sometimes called the Long Fields.
Langland. I always remember just people talking, they called it the village beach, Langland Bay. That would be the village beach. So that would be Oystermouth Village, Mumbles Village, the village of Mumbles really.
So now we call Mumbles, or we think of Mumbles, the Mumbles, we think of it as one village contained within itself in a way, don't we? There's a sort of difference. So what we understand is that now you would say that Langland was the beach for the whole of Mumbles.
Yeah, that would have been where the villagers went to bathe.
Why is that then, rather than it's because it's closer? What about Limeslade?
Yeah, it would have. Limeslade, the pier beach was called the pier beach.
Right.
Obviously, because that was what it was called to us as kids, the pier beach. Bracelet, I suppose, and the lighthouse there. Yeah, they were obviously beaches that we used, but I think people drove more to them.
Yeah.
I think they sort of drove, looked at the view, and then left.
So that's where you'd have a big influx of day trippers.
Yeah. Yeah. And they may walk from there then, but we did have some old cine film which my grandfather took, and there was all millions of people there, all with cooking their own cups of tea and everything on the
I've
back
seen
of the van.
photos, yeah.
And so that would be that bracelet would be that.
So Langland, in a way,
was
if
more
you could
local.
walk there, it was the local.
Yeah, local beach.
Because that's what I'd heard, that people would walk across the long fields to get to Langland.
Yeah, probably right. Probably right. And from Newton then they would either drop down there or drop down to Caswell.
Yeah. So going back now to say Oystermouth and heading out towards Village Lane and Southend direction. Village Lane, before you approach the cutting, is that right? Do you know the cutting actually? Is that a newer, that's directly related to them cutting through the rock?
Yeah, with dynamite.
Okay.
To make a road, really.
Yeah.
I don't know what year that would have been. That would have been early 19 something. Earlys. And if you look on the rock there, you'll see the dynamite marks where they've blown it up. But the Nab Rock, the original Nab Rock was part of the Mumbles Cliff.
Yeah.
And it actually came down. If you go down there, you'll see two bits. You've got the Nab Rock, which they built that car park on it now, which I don't know if that was a good idea, but they've done it. So they built it. That's the Nab Rock. You can't really see it
over the top.
Yeah.
And then you can see a bit of the rock sticking out.
Yeah, that's the Nab Rock.
Okay.
And when we were children, we used to climb on top of that, and once you climbed on it, you had sort of grown up. Like my older brothers would be on top, and they were big boys because they could get.
So it was quite tall from sea level.
It was big, yeah.
So now you walk above it. Is that right?
Yeah, now you just walk straight on it. It's part of the slip now where boats are launched. But further down then it was another quite a big rock, but that was small compared to the size of the Nab Rock.
Yeah.
A bit like the Donkey Rock in Rotherslade.
So Donkey Rock in Rotherslade, is that Stall's Rock as well?
Don't know. I just know that as a Donkey Rock. I don't know.
Is it related? Is it related to Donkey Row, Donkey Rock?
It might be. Donkey Row is Village Lane, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk to you about Village Lane actually, because that in itself was a community, wasn't it?
It was. When I was growing up, I grew up just round the corner, really, heading out, as you say, towards Southend.
Yeah.
And Village Lane, my friend's gran used to live there. She was Irish. Mrs. Harvey, my uncle's mother. Bobby Gammon lived there. They were all Mumbles people, really. I don't think they owned the houses then. I think they were like sitting tenants in them.
Gammon is a very Mumbles name, isn't it? Are they related to the lifeboat in some way?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Bobby's not with us now, but Bobby and Paula, his wife, lived there. And he used to play Shawadi Wadi records out of his. They all have half doors. The And he always had Shawadi Wadi playing. He was a nice chap, he was.
So when they built those little houses along the top, it was the locals that came up with the name Donkey Road. It's not called that on the map, is it? Is it?
No, I think remember Tim Clement telling me that it was behind Village Lane.
Yeah.
And he lived in Village Lane most of his life. He's a Newton boy.
Okay.
He wasn't Mumbles, but he lived in Village Lane for 30 odd years.
Oh, ages.
Yeah. And he was part of that sort of crew of Village Laners, really. And
you call it the lane.
Yeah, the lane. That's what all old Mumbles people would call it. Yeah,
so what sort of conversations would they have on the lane then?
Well, I remember certain things of Village Lane. I remember that all the houses there had coal fires.
Yeah.
So when the ice and snow came,
yeah.
they put all the ashes out on the lane. So then anybody walking down wouldn't slip. And it would be black and stinking, but it would be safe because it was so steep that they were, and there was things like that you noticed, that everybody lived there. Nobody rented. I mean, they rented, but they were there forever.
Yeah.
You know, they were sitting tenants that were going to stay there forever. And
Did they feel like they were fishermen's cottages? Did Mumbles still feel like a fishing?
Yeah, it did, because Tim Clement was a fisherman, and he used to carry his outboard motor down, his Seagull engine on his shoulder and his anchor and everything, and would go out fishing. But Mumbles was different then, because they built the marina, so he took away all the moorings out in the bay. Like, I used to go to the fishing club as a child, growing up with my dad, and that was a real community thing. And we'd look out of the windows overlooking the bay, and you could see all the boats coming in and getting on their moorings or leaving their moorings.
So that's Swansea Marina.
Yeah, Swansea Marina was built.
And that's when they stopped.
And that's when they stopped it then, because Mumbles used to be, you would row out to your boat in a small boat, and then take your boat out for the day. Then and tie up your little boat to that, and then go off down Gower, and go down to Oxwich.
So that's why the fishing club. It's called the fishing club.
Yeah, Mumbles Motorboat
and fishing
club. So it was boats. They had their own boat that was moored there.
Yeah. And
if you joined the fishing club, it meant that you could take that boat out if you had a license for captain and stuff. And it it was completely different to what it is now. Completely, it's incredible how it's changed, really. And how, what I notice about Mumbles now is that they make it so difficult for you to use boats. They charge you stupid money, everything. They look at everything to stop you from doing that. Where when I was growing up, we could just launch. I had a boat myself, and I was only young, and I could just launch it and row out, tie up to a mooring, do a bit of fishing, come back in. But if you did that now, they'd probably have some police would come and tell you. And ask
they got rid of the boats completely now.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you notice the difference because you've lost that sound, the clinking, the little bell like ringing of the mast in the wind.
Yeah.
That feel, that's
definitely
gone.
It's gone. And I find Mumbles, the village now, is a bit soulless compared to when I was growing up.
That part of Mumbles has changed. So that part, from Oystermouth, where you had what was called the concrete, where they concreted over the original railway lines, so you had to cross that to get to the beach.
Yeah.
Apparently. From there out towards the pier is very quiet now, isn't it?
Dead. Dead. Quiet.
But that's where you lived, so
that's
you would notice that difference particularly.
Yeah, certainly. I lived next door to the Carlton Hotel, which is probably one of the hotels that's still there now, South End. And when I used to go out, I never went on holiday. I'd have 6 weeks of summer holidays there in the park playing football, and it would be absolutely packed. And I'd play football and cricket, and then there'd be a band playing in the park, like a big brass band, Swansea concert band. We'd go over then later in the evening when the tide came in, and we'd watch the skiers ski jumping and so.
Oh yeah, because the water skiing was a big thing, wasn't it?
Oh,
and
massive.
that white building by Southend Park,
Yeah.
is that all that's left of?
That was the Mumbles water skiing club, and opposite that there used to be about 20 boats all left there with engines on, big speedboats. They used to have a ramp, 2 floating rafts that they used to drop off to in different parts of the bay, and Roger Bateman used to be jumping off in his youth off the,
Bateman Travel.
yeah, off the top of that, straight over the top, and he was a good skier, Roger.
So would all of those people, how often would you in that period of time hear Mumbles dialect, for example, you know, how art thou, smaller bits of it?
Lots of it.
Would you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, loads of, when people were, I'd always see Mumbles, old men I would call them, probably getting close to my age now, but they were a lot older than me because I was young, and they'd always say, "How art, boy? How art?" And I'd say, "Where's been?" They'd say, "Where's been?" And they'd say, "Oh, out along her, or in along her, or round backside." And they used to say, one I remember saying was, "Custn't whack it. Not a bad day, boy. Custn't whack it." Couldn't beat it, really.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, custn't whack it.
So many influences from the sea, aren't there?
Well, Cornish, they reckon. The dealings. They did so much dealings with Cornwall, the village, and they picked up. And I suppose there's Welsh as well, Welsh, English, you know, and the accent of the village, really. Like, I suppose trading the oysters. You're not far away from Ilfracombe either, really. You're only a stone's throw away. So, you know, that it sounds a bit sort of tone as well. But I'm trying to think of other things.
You can see things in the place names a bit as well, can't you? Drangway.
Yeah.
So there's Drangway House.
Yeah.
And those narrow passageways. That's what that translates as, isn't it?
Like a lot of the words were cussed. I cussed if I decustn't, if I decastn't, meaning I would if I could, but I can't.
Brilliant.
And you'd have lots of guys in I used to go to the British Legion when I was about 16, 17, and that was full of it. And even people who'd moved to the village, who may have come from the valleys, would say, "How art, boy? How art?"
Well, that's the one that stands out for me as well.
Yeah. They you know, it would be, you'd hear it totally regular. And I remember my friend Peter Sheffield, he used to say it when he was about 15, regular. So he must have picked it up off his neighbours or something, you know, growing up. And I'm just trying to think of the other.
What about things for the weather? Were there any, any sort of dialect for sea conditions or weather that strike you?
Yeah, not. You know, I mean, only that you'd say, "What was it? A nice day, cuss and whack it." You know, that describing the day, but not.
Yeah, cuss and whack it. The hill, Mumbles Hill. Any?
I do remember somebody would say about the Mumbles Hill that you'd go up there when you were courting, when you were like, say, like 15 or 16, and you'd have a fern lick, meaning a kiss and a cuddle.
Lovely.
But I would think that would mean the ferns or
hiding
a lick.
In the ferns.
Yeah, you know, kissing in the ferns, a fern lick, which I thought was fantastic. That was. And another one, I remember Don Piper telling me that
the hairdresser.
Yeah, Mumbles. Don is an old Mumbles boy, and he would say, "I know thee face, but I can't place thee home." Meaning, I know who you are, but I don't know where you live. And it it would be like, you know, amazing when he would say it, you know. I don't know the first, but Cass and place the home. And Don would know a lot more Mumbles dialect than me, because he's older again than I am. You know, these are the words I just remember. My uncle's Howart and cousin. To snow was another word. I can't quite remember what that meant now. To snow.
To snow.
Yeah. To snow.
Do you know?
No, I don't. But I remember.
I mean, maybe that's what it means.
Yeah,
to
to snow. Yeah.
Do you know?
Do you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably. To
Maybe.
snow. Yeah. But I remember that word being said.
So, I think it might be quite nice to chat maybe again about Village Lane with some of the people that you know.
Yeah, I think Graham Dirk is still with us. He would name lots of people that lived in the lane. He could tell you a lot more than I could, and maybe his mother. I think his mother's still alive, and she could. I think Mike Harvey is still with us. He could talk about Village Lane in general, really, on what it was like at that time, you know, and what sort of, you know, the difference between now. It's
that's important, isn't it?
Yeah. And also maybe get somebody of now as well. I think Suzanne's children would be interested in doing like a recording on how they see the lane over the last 20 years. You know, and then
Village Lane in itself. Good idea. Okay, thank you, Martin.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Appreciate your time.